Daith da, Ewi Nakan. Welcome to podcast number 164. Well, I'm knackered. I tell you what, that seemed like a long week, but then again, it went by in a flash. They're just in enough hours in the day. But we've made it through another week, which is good. And I think I spoke to you last week. I recorded it on the Thursday. So last Friday, we had another early start, 8:35 Glyn Valley, for an unattended funeral there. Although a couple of the family did follow in their car behind, and they're allowed to stand outside as we go into the chapel. So that was a nice touch. And then we had dear Prue's funeral in the afternoon. And I can remember Prue from years ago when she used to be a nurse here in the hospital here in Bodmin. And there was a wonderful crowd. Again, they were standing outside. They was in the waiting room. And she would have loved it, I'm sure. And, of course, Lee, her boy, we met. We go back many years too. So we've been thinking of him and all the family. But I know she would have been very proud of him, and all went well. Saturday, late Saturday morning, I had a fantastic time. I really did. And this is because one of my old schoolmates, who I've seen once since 1981 up until this week, turned up out of the blue. And that's Steve Lawrence. And Steve, we went right through school together, boys' school, comprehensive. But then when we got to sixth form, he then left then. And I think I've seen him once before last week. So just to give you a bit of history, Steve's mother was Spanish. They lived here in Wadebridge. Valley View is where they ended up. I think there's Meadowhead, but then Valley View. And then he went up to live in St Albans. And then I think he was about 20, and he went over to Spain to live. And he's lived there ever since. I think he said about 45 minutes away from Madrid. So he just turned up with Celia, his daughter, and her boyfriend on my doorstep, and it was fantastic. I think it was one late evening, so we agreed to meet up on Saturday. So we went up Barney's Cafe, the new one there up on the outskirts of town, and it was fantastic. We just had, nearly 3 hours just catching up, just, talking about the old times, getting old photos out. And we're definitely going to meet up again. He's going to come back over. Hopefully, he said we can pop out there. So if we can, that would be brilliant. So that was fantastic, I must admit. And then Sunday, we was out again. Now, this time, we went over to the hotel on the other coast, the Nair. Fantastic hotel. It really is. I did put some photos on my Facebook page, my personal one. And we went out there because our boy Elliot, he actually works there. So we went out there at Sunday lunch there is what they would say when you went there. I mean, we would say we went there for dinner, but they would call it Sunday lunch. So we went there. It was fantastic. And I took some lovely photos. Well, I think they're lovely. Anyway, I took some photos and the sea views from that hotel down to the beach as well. It was brilliant. And also, I took some photos of Veryan, which is a village that you have to get through to go to the Nair. And the one thing that, it just sticks out there as such a fantastic sight when you're coming towards it, is these 5 round houses on either side of the village as you go in and go out the other way. And they got thatched roofs. There's other cottages there as well with thatched roofs. And I did put photos of that on my Facebook page, but they're lovely. The round houses, they was actually built by the local vicar there at Veryan at the time, around about 1810. And they say they cost about £42 to build back then. And the idea of these round houses was almost to keep the devil away, or at least if the devil went into the house, because there was no corners, he had nowhere to hide. And as added protection, the round houses had a cross on the roof. So if you go on my personal Facebook page, you'll see the photos there. If not, just Google Roundhouses of Veryan And you'll see what I mean. They're stunning. They really are stunning. And then back in the evening, we was back out in the woods again. This is something we've got into now with our head torches on, pitch black, walking through the woods. And we saw two pairs of eyes reflected back at us. And they just kept looking at us. So I just kept looking at they, trying to get my phone out to take a photo. By the time I got my phone there, one had walked off, but the other one had stayed there. And I did put a photo again up, and it was two deer. And the dogs never sensed they was there, which was brilliant. So I did manage to get one of the deer in my photo. And then on my RJ Bray Facebook page, you would have seen I did put a photo on there. I shared it from Wadebridge Poppy Appeal. And what happened, they did get in touch a few weeks ago and asked if we would like to donate a little something to kickstart this year's Poppy Appeal. So we gladly did that, and they said, we'll do a little photo. And I did hear actually today that this year's fundraising is going very well so far for a worthy cause. So I was only too pleased to help. And then back to reality on Monday. And back to an early start. We had a private 9 o'clock service, the 10-minute ones. God, by the time these podcasts finish, you'll know exactly what every service involves, I tell you. But yeah, it was 9 o'clock. We was there for 10 minutes, private service, but a lovely intimate one. And then I stayed in there because I did have a service there at the crematorium at 10:32 for Margaret, which again went really well. And then the afternoon, I had the afternoon no funerals, which was good. So a bit of paperwork. I did have a meeting. We did have a burial of ashes up St. Brioch as well. So that day just flew by, and then into Tuesday. And Tuesday, I did put a little reel, as they call it, a short film on our Facebook page and also our RJ Bray Instagram page as well. We've started sharing stuff there as well now because it seems very popular. And I just did this little film about Innes Chapel. So I think I might have mentioned Innes before when we went there because it's quite a unique little place, really. It's on Innes Downs. 'Tis in the middle of nowhere. And Mavis, we've known her family for such a long time. We've cared for many members of her family. And Tim, when her son gave the eulogy, he started off by saying, "Thank you for everyone who came to the service today. And if it's your first time here, well done for finding it." And I think that does sum it up because there's no real signpost as such. And you go down this lane, well, quite often it's got potholes in, but there's of them. They do fill them up whenever they can. Well, the lane must go on for over a mile, and you are in the middle of nowhere, and then you come to a dead end, and there on your right is Innes Chapel. And the chapel, I think, was built about 1840, 1850, something like that. And back then, I think it was something more to do. There was a Quaker burial ground they had there and everything, but it is under the Methodists now, and it is something to do with the Methodist Heritage. I don't know what organisation. I'm not too sure what I would call it, but they say that maybe services might stop there in years to come. I don't know, but as a chapel, it would never be closed down itself because of its historic meaning. And it's brilliant. It's got no electricity. It's got gas lighting. And so we have to take all of our battery-powered music systems and stuff like that. But I did take this video just walking towards the chapel. I pan around to see the graveyard and then back again and inside. And you'll see what a tiny chapel it is, but it's lovely. It's got a wonderful feel to it. So, yeah, that's where we were. As you can imagine, the chapel was full and they was outside as well. And weather was pretty good because we've had some awful weather over the last few days, but all was well. And then Tuesday evening, my social week continued. And we went to the pictures. Dave said about going. I said, yep, we're on. So we went to the cinema there, the Regal in Wadebridge. to see the film about Bruce Springsteen that was called Deliver Me From Nowhere. Now, I didn't do any research before I went, and I was expecting it to be all about his life story growing up as a youngster and everything. But it wouldn't at all. It was just about his struggles with depression and everything, especially around the time he was recording the album Nebraska. And it was quite a good, well, it was a very good film, but it was quite interesting, really, to see a bit of the other side of Bruce Springsteen that I never really knew existed. So that was a good evening. And then back to work on Wednesday. And this was down at Padstow Church this time for Nancy's funeral. And dear Nancy, I did put a video on, again, a little reel as they call it, did put a video on, and that was of, well, how the family made it personal to Nancy. And she loved her horses. So the family had 2 ponies there just on the edge of the churchyard by Padstow Church. And then I walked round, and then when we were on the road, you see our hearse, and then you see the tractor and trailer that she arrived to church in, which was good. And it's the second funeral we've had in recent times where this person has died and the partner couldn't have a proper funeral because of COVID. And Nancy's husband, Fernley, well, that was very much the case. In fact, it was one of the very first COVID funerals we had. And when I say COVID, what I mean is one of the first funerals in lockdown. Because what happened was, dear Fernley had passed away there, and we was expecting 400 or 500 people in Padstow Church. It was going to be a massive funeral. And just before we were going to make the announcements, Boris come on the radio and said, and on the TV, and said, funerals are restricted to 12 people. And we thought, what are we going to do about that? Well, Richard, the son, he had a brainwave. And he did worry me a little, I must admit. When he first told me, he said, we can have the funeral, there's going to be 212 there. And I thought, oh no, we're only allowed 12. But he went on to explain, to be 12 people and 200 of Fernley's cows. And the funeral took place in one of their fields, and we were surrounded by cows, and it was perfect. And that is, in fact, where I got the photo for me podcast, The Life and Times of a Cornish Funeral Director. Just before the service was going to start, I'm getting nudged from behind by a few of these cows. So I took a quick selfie of me with the cows behind me. And that's what I used for the cover of my podcast. But like I say, it was a lovely personal service. It really was. And I think the ponies made it. So then got back to Wadebridge, and I had time for a quick dinner. 20 minutes if that. And then it was over to the John Betjeman Centre in the afternoon for their AGM. And as a lot of you might know, I'm a patron of the Betjeman Centre over there. So it was lovely to go along and just hear how things are progressing. It's been another brilliant year down there at the Betjeman Centre. Emma and the team, they do a fantastic job. So, I managed to get there on time. It was touch and go. I think I got there with about 5 minutes to spare. Yesterday, we was up Michaelstowe. And again, I think, what's that, 3rd day running? I put a little film on the RJ Bray Facebook page and the Instagram page because I wanted to just show a little video because a lot of people, well, they would never go near Michaelstowe. It's not a place you would go through. And it's got fantastic steps going up to the church, which I filmed. Yesterday, I didn't film the inside of the church. I'll do that another time. But I just bared over to the right just to show you down the steps to the holy well that's there. I might have spoke about that before, I think. So I won't go into too much detail today. But it was David's funeral. And again, the church was full. And he was a Jaguar enthusiast. He'd had a few Jags over the years. So it was lovely that we had our Jaguars there yesterday. I'm sure that's something he would have appreciated. And then 'twas early tea because I was out again last night. And this was up at the showground. this was a concert, a gig, as us youngsters would call it. Now, it's in the Royal Cornwall Events Centre, I think it was entitled, the Royal Cornwall Events Centre, and there were 4 acts performing. Now, it started at 6 o'clock, which was quite early. By the time I do mother's tea, get home and have my tea, well, I didn't have a lot of time to spare. But so what happened was, doors opened at 6, and Martin Arley, the first act, was on at 6:15. Well, we missed he, and it was me and James that went up. So he come round, he picked me up. Now, I ain't saying that us Cornish are tight, but we have got short arms and deep pockets, and we had to pay for the tickets, obviously, to get into the concert. But then also, James heard they was charging £11 to park your car up there. So I said to James, we'll park down by the toll house where Cecil used to live with his mother, Miss Hawke, and we'll walk up. Well, that would have been all right, except for we'd been walking about 3 or 4 minutes and there was a cloud burst and we got absolutely soaked. The wind got up and we were streaming, leaking. By the time we get down to the event centre, as they call it, honestly, I was cold and wet, and I didn't dry out for the whole of the concert. It was gutting. But anyway, we got there in time. We saw Willie and the Bandits. They was the second act on. They was blooming good, I must admit. And then Noah Dillon. And then the highlight of the evening was John Butler and his band. And he's over from Australia. And very unique, the way he plays that slide guitar at times and that, the mixture of music he's got. Oh, it was brilliant. So that was a lovely evening, apart from the fact I was cold and wet. But it did remind me when I was in the Chipmunks, which I always regret choosing that name for a group. If I knew we was going to be as successful as we were, I would have chose a good name, because that wasn't the best of names, really. But when we was in the Chipmunks, we actually played in that building. But I'm going back about 40 years now, and they've got concrete flooring now, and I'm sure it wasn't concrete back then. It all seemed very dusty when we played. I remember there was dust getting over our guitars and amps and everything. But it was a brilliant evening, and it did bring back a lot of memories. And then today should have been a day of paperwork. It was a rare Friday with no funerals, but it was absolutely manic. The phone was going, people was coming in, you plan to do something and then you get diverted off. So it was a hectic day. Right, well, that's enough from me because I've gone on a hang of a lot today. I shouldn't have done that, really. But we're now going over to our second part of our interview with Steve. And the one thing I love about these podcasts is how they bring people together. Now, as you know, the last 3 episodes I did with Phil Trevina from Redruth, and now this is Steve from Camborne. And funny enough, it was only through them listening to each other's podcasts they found out that they are related. So that's absolutely brilliant. I must admit, you can see the similarity. It didn't surprise me at all when I found out they was related. I think the only difference is that Phil is quite tall, where Steve is a bit short, like me. And also Phil is a bit thin, where Steve's a little bit stuggy. And Phil got a full head of hair, where Steve's bolt's a coot, really. But apart from that, you can see them related. There's something about it, definitely. So it was lovely for them to find that out. It was absolutely proper. And now this one, we will go over to Steve, and he talks mainly about working in the tin mine and mining. Well, Redruth area, years ago, that was the mining centre of the world. It really was. And Steve talks about when he was down there and with the mine closing as well. And I was actually going to go in depth about mining and that, but I've gone on too long. So I'll do that another day. So now I'll hand over to Steve. So here it is.
And then I was sort of unemployed for a couple of years. There wasn't much happening. Just so happened to be, I had a job interview at Save Crofty Mine.
All right.
in 1994. And I got the job. And the first day I started was in February. I think it was something like Valentine's Day, actually, it was.
Yeah.
And the weather was blooming cold.
Mm.
And actually had snow on the first day I was there. I started on the Monday. On the Thursday, I had my driving test. I passed first time. Well, actually, the first day I started at the mine, I suppose I had a driving lesson that evening. Obviously, that was cancelled with all the snow on the roads. Like,
Yeah.
So that was a good start. That was,
Yeah.
when I sort of got the job and passed my driving test. That was a massive string to my bow, really, because
Yeah.
to have a driving license, because I just ride motorbike ever since I left school.
Yeah.
So I was 28 when I went to Crofty. So sort of like, I'm talking like 13 years of riding motorbikes,
Yeah.
But once I got my car license, there's no stopping me then.
No.
I gave up the motorbikes.
So what did work at Crofty entail then?
When I first started there, I went on a outside mining division called Carnan Contracting.
Mm.
And basically what they used to do multiple jobs like tunneling, diamond drilling, shaft sinking, various things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first started there, I went to, actually, go back now. When I first got after my interview at Crofty, I went down on underground on induction underground,
right.
showed me around underground the mine. And then I was supposed to have been a diamond driller's mate.
Okay.
And then they put me out on site, actually at Newquay Headland. As you probably all know, it's a sewer on Newquay Headland. And because a lot of the sewage was coming out there then, coming out into the water, they decided to wanted to put a screening plant in.
Yeah.
To catch all the debris. So they got Carnan Contracting to go up there and break out the bottom of the sewer shaft so they could fit all this equipment in,
Yeah.
We was there for several months.
Yeah.
That just down there with hydraulic breakers down there and breaking out the concrete, and then it was all sent up in a kibble, which is a big bucket up on the air winch out the shaft,
Yeah.
So once that job finished, they put me underground in the mine, and I went down underground on construction,
Right.
putting in services like air pipes, water pipes, reclaiming track underground to run the locomotives on and the wagons.
Yeah.
Reclaiming sleepers, and I used to work with a good gang of blokes doing that. I used to really enjoy it,
Yeah.
But then when things got a bit busier on the outside contracting again, I went back on that. Well, I didn't quite enjoy it so much.
No.
So I kept pestering the mine captain, can I have a job underground? Can I have a job? Well, I ain't got no jobs at the moment. And this went on for quite some time. Then eventually I got a job underground full time. I went straight on construction, which was great. And then I went tramming then, which is loading the broken tin ore with a mucking machine into the wagons and then bringing it out and tip it into the crusher,
Yeah. How far down did he work then?
The lowest level I worked on was, because it's all counted in fathoms.
Yeah.
Well, measured in fathoms. So 6 foot to a fathom.
Yeah.
So the lowest level we worked down was 445 fathoms.
Get away.
So I think that's something like, it's well over 2,000 feet.
Yeah. Crikey.
I did actually get to walk down once on a decline shaft down to a 3,000 feet mark, down at 500 fathom mark.
Yeah.
But there was no mining ever, productive mining ever existed down to the 500 fathom mark.
No.
Because below 445 level it was 470 level, but they never ever actually did any productive mining on 470 level. All there was a access station coming off a decline, you know.
Right, I see.
Because there was 2 declines underground, and it was blooming steep as well.
Was that? Yeah.
So you're going down the hill underground.
Get away.
Coming back up the hill underground, you know.
Crikey.
One decline shaft ran from 370 fathom down to 420 fathom.
Right.
Then another one from 420 down to 500 fathom, you know.
Was it dangerous then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's a dangerous environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had to have your wits about you, like, you know.
Yeah, because I know, like, going back decades back, you hear about these terrible mining accidents.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering, like, in your era, whether there was there...
Thankfully, there was no fatalities when I got there.
No.
You know? Yeah, there was injuries, you know. There was a lot of cuts and, you know, and people cut themselves, you know, because if a rock came down or even a small stone that came down and hit your arm or your leg, and a lot of them was like razors. They'd be cut, like, you know.
Yeah.
Especially with the heat down there, you bleed profusely, like, you know, because you know, when you're down there in the heat, your heart is pumping, like, you know, you know, bleeding would take quite a bit of stopping. But I just had a few minor cuts.
Yeah.
Nothing major to be anything to be stitched up. I know some miners there that was down the ground, they would get cut. They would go up the cage, up the shaft, into the first aid room. First aid man would stitch them up, bandage them up, straight back into work again. Yeah, seriously, yeah.
Wouldn't happen these days.
No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. No, not at all, no.
What about your workmates and any you remember names?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. One was called Peter Barnes.
Right.
Peter Barnes was quite eccentric. Peter wouldn't take much to eat to work with him.
Okay.
I said to Peter once, "Don't you take any Kraus dinner with you and down on the ground with you?" And Peter, "No, just one meal a day, just like a dog." You know?
Away, yeah.
And this was quite funny, and I heard a lot of people say it, and I've actually seen it myself. Peter was a long hole driller. He used to operate a long hole drill. And Peter would take a loaf of bread underground.
Right.
And a pot of jam.
Yeah.
And the bread used to go quite mouldy underground. It'd be there for quite a long time. And he used to use an actual blade to cut the bread. And spread the jam on. Seriously, yeah. And, Peter was a character. I was told that one of the houses he lived in, he had a chain ladder to go up to his bedroom. You know?
Right.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, he had, and the house when I knew him and seen him living, he had mining equipment out back of the house, like mucking machine, rock drills, conveyor belt. He said he was going to try and put a tunnel in the bank behind his house. Yeah, there were some characters there, yeah. Graham Gobber Thomas, he was a proper character, he was, you know. Yeah, still see Graham now, like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, I could tell you some stories about, but not on this show.
No.
I could tell you some beauties, like, you know.
Yeah. So how long did you work there then?
I was there 4 years. Yeah. I was there until the end.
When it closed?
When it closed.
Oh, right.
94 to 98.
God, I bet that was a sad day when
it was a very sad day, yes. I was in tears.
Yeah, I can
so
imagine.
Was a lot of us, like, you know. I really enjoyed working down there.
Yeah.
Every day was different. Every day was a challenge underground. It wasn't an easy place to work, you know. A lot of the rails underground used to pull the wagons out on was in poor state of repair. You could be pulling full wagons out with tin ore in them, 5 ton of tin ore in each wagon. You might have 3 or 4 behind the locomotive, and one might hit a rail a bit wrong, and over she goes. Ooh. And then that's your day over.
Yeah.
And then you've got to try and get chain and blocks in there to get them back upright, and jacks, and, you know. So, yeah. So some days it was a challenge, and some days everything went smoothly, like, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, or mucking machine might break down or something, like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Is that the one they're trying to reopen now? Is it?
That's correct, David. That's
It
right.
is?
Yeah.
Right, okay. Do you think they'll be successful then, or no? They've been pumping a lot of money into it, haven't they?
I think they're going to be. I think they're making good progress. Yeah. Yeah, they are. I think somebody said the other day they're down about 300 fathom level. They're pumping the water out, like, There's going to be a heck of a lot of mess down there anyway.
Definitely.
Especially there's a lot of equipment been left down there.
Yeah.
Like conveyor belt motors and substations, electrical substations, mucking machines, wagons. So I think when the oxygen gets to it, it's going to start to deteriorate quite fast and rust, like,
Definitely.
Yeah. I wish them every success. I sincerely hope it opens.
Yeah, well, 'twas the art of Cornwall, wasn't it? Back
it
in
was
its heyday.
Yeah.
Mining.
But certainly a young man's game. I too blooming old to go down and working down there now. The boys down there on the machines, on the rock drills, that was pretty much hard graft. That was real hard graft.
Yeah.
It's very hot down there, and when you're umbering the machine around all day on the air leg, which probably weighs about 80, 90 pounds, in extreme heat, and humidity, you certainly felt it when you come home.
Yeah, definitely.
I did a bit of machining on the rock drill occasionally.
Yeah.
Sometimes I could come in the morning, and you would go wait for the shift bosses in the morning to ask where you're going to be located that day, and they would say, "Well, you can go down with so and so today because his mate has got rung in sick. Can you go down with him? Because you've never worked on your own underground for safety reasons."
No.
And I would say to whoever it is, "What are we doing?" "Oh, we're going to drill a 6 foot round." "Right on." So, and if you think you was going to go on the machine for the day, you was in your element. That was
definitely.
Oh yeah, it was I think it was a bit of a macho thing, really. To actually, you've been down there using a rock drill all day, like, it's blooming loud as well.
Yeah.
Run on compressed air. And then once you drilled your sequence of holes in the face, then you would charge it with dynamite then.
Yeah.
And then sort of once you charged it with dynamite, you very often used to wait for a cup of tea and something to eat, have your crouse then, like,
Yeah.
And then you would wait till, I don't know, so like 2:45 in the afternoon, and then you would fire then, like,
Yeah.
when you give the all clear from up surface with the shift bosses, and then they would shut the shaft down, and then you would fire your round then, like,
Yeah.
And it wasn't a one big bang when a round went off. It was a sequence of delayed blasts, like,
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Same bit like a machine gun going off.
Right. Yeah.
But the long old blasts, they was bigger blasts. They was one big sort of bang.
Yeah.
It was quite strange, really, because underground, when a long old blast went off, you didn't really hear that much. There was a bit of a crack, but it sounded very faint. But a lot of people in the Tuckermill area who lived there used to phone up and complain in the afternoon because the houses used to shake. And my mother and father's house used to shake in skybuds. Oh yeah, seriously, yeah. I've heard people say the ornaments that come off the shelves and all, and
Because I know even up here, if you buy a house, they got to do a mining survey in them, like
that's right, David. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good place to stop for today. Thank you, Steve, and 'twas fantastic, wasn't it, to hear about the mining. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, or light at the end of the mine shaft, shall we say, because South Crofty, they are trying to reopen it again, which is brilliant. They've been trying for a while now. They've been actually dewatering it, pumping out water, refurbishing all the shafts and everything down there. And they are hoping that they can reopen it again, well, perhaps maybe next year or by 2028. This is what they're hoping. But like South Crofty, it was in use for 400 years. And I say it closed in 1998. But then getting down quite a level, say then putting in new pumps as they go down, refurbishing the shafts and everything. And I think when I've got a quiet week for interviews, I might do a whole episode on tin mining. So we've just touched on it today, really. But 'twas lovely. Thank you, Steve, for that, mate. And we'll have the final part of your interview next week. For me Cornish word of the week, I'm going for the word wheel. W-H-E-A-L. Now that comes actually from an older version of that word, Hwel, which is H-W-E-L, which is the Cornish word for mine. And over the years, it's changed into wheel, it's pronounced. And that's how you've got the mines like Wheel Coates, Wheel Jane, Wheel Martin. It's the name of the mine. So wheel is what we're going for, but it was Hwel, which is H-W-E-L. And my dialect for the week, I'm going for the word. Steve's a bit different to we up here. And he used this dialect when he was talking in the interview. Now up here, if we're having a little snack mid-morning, we're having our crib. That's when we have our crib. But down west, they call it crouse. And Steve did mention that, crouse, C-R-O-W-S-E, I would imagine how 'tis spelled. So that's my Cornish dialect for the week. Down there, if you're having some crouse, 'tis your kind of your snack mid-morning. Up here, 'tis crib. So there we go. I've gone on a bit longer. Sorry about that. I made this one a bit longer this week, but I got carried away. But we'll have more from Steve next week, and I'll speak to you then. Wish you well. Do Guinness. Kerna Bisficken.